So the UK has been forced to reopen. Sorry, forgot my line. In this segment, we're going to be talking about the UK being forced to reopen its trade deal with Ukraine, one of its most sensitive post-Brexit agreements, after errors were found in the original text, the Independent can reveal. So what happened was Britain got done because we did a cut and paste job and we didn't bother to use the old Control F to scrub out certain words. Bit embarrassing. Or it might be the case that we did actually intend on keeping EU standards, but then realised we might have to deregulate to get trade deals with other countries. Who knows? All I know is this is funny. So the pact was signed by Boris Johnson in October last year and lauded as a key example of Britain's post-Brexit and foreign policies. The agreement not only covers the commercial relationship between Britain and the Eastern European country, but also defence cooperation to support Kiev's sovereignty. So we're probably going to sell them a lot of weapons. However, two officials told The Independent that the pact was already having to be reworked. This is less than a year, by the way, already having to be reworked after mistakes were noted in the drafting of trade chapters. Some of the errors are a result of copying and pasting sections that bind the UK to EU rules, the same officials have said. So, is it the case, I'm just wondering, if it does get amended, would Parliament have to re-vote on it? And would Ukrainian, however the Ukrainian government works, would they have to re-vote on it as well if it does get changed, the, really massive parts of the trade deal? Problems emerged when the Trade Department sought to create guidance on how the deal should be used by business in February and March after it came to force in January. However, the fact that the deal needed fresh negotiations and drafting was not made public by the Department for International Trade. Gee, I wonder why. Because when businesses were asking, "Law, how does the trade work?" and then they looked at it and it's like, "Oh no, EU standards, nani?" Like, this is just so stupid. Like, bruv, like, how are you going to cut and paste it and not look at certain bits like this on rollover deals? And so it does raise the question that, do these terms agree in other UK rollover deals, like the UK deal with Japan? Is that also, mention EU standards? Because if it does, I would struggle to hold back from laughter. One of the same government officials said this was a deal that no one wanted to get wrong, except you did, particularly as it was subject to especially close scrutiny by the European Union, who are probably laughing so badly right now. Separately, an EU official told The Independent that they had noted that the agreement bound the UK to rules in some areas they should have not expected it to. So that might mean we have to keep certain standards high when it comes to exporting of goods to Ukraine, which the UK weren't expecting. So this is quite an interesting one, but without specifics we can't go too much into it. But again, we are going to be stuck to EU rules according to this trade deal at least, because of the fact that Liz Truss decided to cut and paste instead of actually reading the trade deal like other countries do. The spokesperson for DIT said it is standard practice for small sections of agreements to be amended. I mean, that's not the case here, and updated over time. I mean, it's only been in force for about 7 months. Updated over time. If you said 3 or 4 years later, I'd get you, but it's 7 months, lad. Or to a greater clarity that is helpful to businesses, that's not what's happened. However, one of the officials who's familiar with the agreement's development said changes that needed to be made were not minor and could have significant impact on businesses. They added that they accounted to errors rather than an update, so they blatantly made mistakes in this trade agreement. One business with operations in Ukraine, which the official did not name due to commercial sensitivities, also flagged additional issues with the text. They said the issues touched on trade in both services and goods. So you can see this affects a wide spectrum of stuff. It's not just physically made goods, it's services as well, which the UK exported a lot of. So the fact is that they've made massive mistakes tying us to EU standards when it comes to goods and also services. So you can see that typically in a trade deal, services aren't included. So you can see why this trade deal was lauded so highly by the Prime Minister and other Tory goons. But the simple fact is massive mistakes were made because you tried to get the deal rushed through quickly, which only begs the question, how many other mistakes have they made in these other trade deals? Anyways, Emily Thornberry, the Labour Shadow International Trade Secretary, said this is not the only time the government has made basic errors when rolling over our EU treaties, but it's also the most serious one because, again, serious mistakes were made here, especially as the direction of the UK goes towards deregulation. Will the UK actually be able to do that due to the fact that we have a trade deal with the Ukraine? Or Ukraine, I don't know if it's the Ukraine or just Ukraine. Can someone please explain that? Because no one seems to know. Sam Lowe, senior fellow at the Centre for European Reform, said that the mistake in trade deals are unfortunate, but not entirely uncommon. He added, that it was surprising that it happened with a rollover agreement because you're just cutting and pasting it, because these deals tended to include more copying and pasting of text than fresh deals. The problem is, obviously, in that EU-Ukraine deal, it would mention stuff about standards, and we've copied that stuff over. It's probably one of the reasons why we got the deal so quickly. So he goes on to say it's a deeper agreement than others and includes commitments to follow EU rules in some areas, and that's the problem. What happens when we stop following EU rules in certain areas? And if there's one thing we've learned, is that the UK government doesn't like to be bound to EU rules, Mr. Lowe said, because we want to deregulate. A former senior Australian trade negotiator told The Independent that it's correct that agreements sometimes need to be amended, but that substantial changes aren't often made so soon after the text of an agreement is finalised. You could imagine if a change of government happens, which is a massive ideological shift, then trade negotiations could get renegotiated. Trade deals could get renegotiated, similar to when you went from, say, Bill Clinton to someone like Donald Trump, where he wanted to renegotiate NAFTA, even though the USMCA is very similar to NAFTA. You can see why he kind of hinted at wanting to renegotiate that deal, because he wanted to appear anti-free trade. Point being is that when you get a massive change in government in terms of ideology, that's when you probably will get renegotiations, or if there are massive changes in standards, things like that. But the simple fact is this deal's only been in place for less than 8 months, so a bit embarrassing. A former senior Australian, we mentioned that bit, the ex-negotiator said this might be indicative of Trade Department's rush to secure agreements in order to ensure the continuity after Brexit, which is absolutely the case. The UK didn't want to look like we've fallen behind when it comes to trade deals, even though we have. Small incorrect changes or a failure to make the right changes in treaties can cause big headaches. They said, given the rush to roll over agreements, the public should expect other trade deals to be revisited in the coming months. So that could mean, specifically, I think, the Japan deal. That could be one. I know that was renegotiated to an extent, which was more in favour of Japan. But we had, I think, 63 rollover deals, which could be looked at. And I'm just wondering, would both parliaments have to vote on any changes that are made, if changes do happen? That's kind of the key question I'm asking the audience here. And we're going to end on this phenomenal quote, which is, copy and paste can be dangerous. You can get down for plagiarism, or you could hold yourself to standards that you didn't want to because you left the world's largest, most rich single trading bloc and decided to go it alone, and you couldn't even get the basic copy and paste right. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Copy and paste can be dangerous, kids, so watch out. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I know I'm kind of a bit late on this one, so forgive me, but yeah. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.